In this video, we're going to take a look at a turquoise ink from KWZ Turquoise. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the turquoise playlist, so if you wanted to see more of them, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, little bit of shading. That the UR of turquoise is a little lighter than what's around it. The Q gets much darker and then it gets lighter again. So through turquoise it gets to go dark, light, dark, light, dark. Very nice. Extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread. Halo sheen, some decent amount of shading, like quick goes light to dark, where brown goes dark to light. The is darker than the words around it. Very nice. 16 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine. Just a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some decent shading. Brown going dark to light, over going light to dark. 22 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, but I think it's better in the writing. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Conklin word gauge with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 23 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the stub, I think, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 33 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation. We're not getting any. In the smear test, you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this really true turquoise. There's no mixing going on to get this. It's completely running away from water. The one on the right that's let dry for 10 minutes basically looks the same, meaning we don't expect any kind of resistance from this ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading. Look at turquoise going darker, little lighter, darker, lighter again, and then very dark again. Nice. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and yes, it does shade. Quick goes darker to lighter to darker. Brown goes darker to lighter. Very nice. 18 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade coming through. 26 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, although we are getting some in the extra fine, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it does spread just a bit. Got very, very light feathering, but we can read everything that's there, meaning it's safe to use in a note-taking situation if you want to go back and highlight. Water is reactivating and lifting most all of this ink off the page in only 30 seconds. It only took water to get it out of my pen. Pen flush does everything that water does and nothing more, in 1/3 bleach solution as we would expect. We're not going to need it, but it obliterates it. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. This isn't done to look for performance change, much more to see tone change that goes on. And if we start out by looking at the smear, you really see what is going on. It goes from being a very blue-leaning turquoise to a very green-leaning turquoise. Now you see that this also happens in the medium and especially in the extra fine. This being very blue-leaning on white paper in a professional environment probably isn't a problem. But this on green paper might be a problem for you, and it's something to be aware of. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. KWZ's turquoise had a viscosity of 2.08, making it just barely wetter than normal. If you're interested in how all the viscosity testing is done and all of that, then there's a link to that video down in the description. But right now, let's take a look at Life paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no real shading coming through, 15 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 21 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, but we're really not getting it in the writing. The medium shows none, where we got none. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. KWZ's turquoise has an average dry time of 23 seconds, so it's going to take a little bit longer than normal to dry. The next writing sample is done on Levenger paper. No bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, just a tad lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 14 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both don't show much for color variation, and we really don't get it, and the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like KWZ's turquoise, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice pink from Diamine, simply named Pink. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of KWZ's turquoise? As a tone, this looks like a pool on a hot Florida day. It's very refreshing. It does give tone variation by pen and some shading spots, or some small spots of shading. It feels thick as an ink, which is why there isn't very much shading. This is an ink you get for its tone, not so much the other qualities that it brings. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? It does look good, generally all the time, but I really prefer it from a medium flow fine. I think it puts down just that right tone that makes me think of a pool in the summer. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Diatramentis Document Fuchsia.